Good evening, strangers. It's another strange Sunday. We're going to go and start this program off right and talk a little bit about what the Bible says about the water. We're going to dig into, there's been a lot in the news recently about something called USOs, unidentified submerged objects, which have kind of been talked about quite a bit online. But tonight we're going to dig further, and I think you're going to be surprised at what we found. We're going to dig deep into Isaiah. We're going to dig deep into Tim Gallaudet's. We're going to bring up a little bit of Tim Burchett tonight, and, well, much more Morneau. See you soon.
The system is totally rigged and broken.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Demon spirits will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet.
It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been.
I still think these are what people call angels. I'm dying to know what they've got to say.
Pretty severe suffering brings them.
These entities have the ability to appear in any form.
Good evening, strangers. Welcome to another Strange Normal. I think this is going to be one for the books tonight. If you have joined us and you're thinking, what in the world, this guy's off his rocker, well, I'm excited to tell you some fun stuff tonight. Make sure you hang around and hit that subscribe button, by the way. Hit that little bell icon, because I've noticed that things go and get out further when you do hit and hit these buttons, make a comment, do different things like that. So if that's what you want to do, you can help by doing that. By the way, if you want to have some, if you're in Florida at the end of this year, if you're going to something called GYC, and you know what that is, Generation Youth for Christ, meet us there. We got an exhibit there, and we will be somewhere on that floor. They haven't given us the exhibit location yet, but it's going to be around the area, and we're going to be under. If you don't know already, we are Orion Media Ministry. So that is the umbrella of this whole thing that we do, from publishing to live presentations to this podcast. Everything falls under the nonprofit Orion Media. So if that's something that you want to participate in, look for me under Orion Media. Orion, of course, like the constellation up there, because that's where I believe God's coming back from. That area up there, so I want to align myself with that. And I'm looking for an editor, someone that can help me out a little bit, and preferably in the Philippines or somewhere across the sea, because we're not a very big ministry, but we could definitely, if you were interested in doing something like that, we'd really appreciate it. So reach out, Bradley at strangenormal.org. .org. Make sure it's .org, not .com. It'll go nowhere. Let's get into this tonight. I want to talk a little bit further about this topic. We're going to talk a little bit about water. Water. What is going on with all this water in the news all of a sudden? Well, apparently the government thinks that they have figured out where all these UAPs are coming from. They said they're not coming from the sky up top. At least that's not what they're ground radar is showing, and they're saying what we're seeing is all these things seem to be coming from 5 or 6 locations in the oceans. Now, the characteristics of these anomalies, these fireballs in the sky, these tic-tacs that are visible during the day that they fired upon, you've seen that one clip, I wish I had that one up here, is interestingly enough the characteristics of demonic entities. We've dug into that quite a bit. You can go through a couple videos back. If you go to the main YouTube channel, Strange Normal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strange Normal, find the section that says best videos and look in that section. I think you'll see a top 20 reasons we believe this is a I'm making up words tonight. Demonic event. Now, first things first, I want to establish there's a former occultist named Roger Morneau. We have a couple clips of him tonight. He is this guy right here. We're going to bring this straight away up. See if I can do this. There we go. And you've heard, everyone that's been on this channel before, you've heard this clip, but I'm going to play it anyway. We've had a slew of new people that come in. Make sure that they understand what's going on here. If you don't know who Roger Morneau is, he's a former occultist that became Christian. He had this to say when speaking to his former satanic priest. This is interesting.
And the priest told us, we talked quite a while, and then he said, could I have a little bit more of your time? I want to do something very fascinating. He says the grand plan, the master's grand plan for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. So we continued, after we expressed ourselves that we're deeply interested to know more about the activities of the spirits. And he said it's going to be done in a unique manner. This grand plan is going to take people are going to eat the stuff. Because he says demon spirits will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there just for a second. We'll come back to Roger because he's got more to say about that, and I think it's relevant. But that's the gist of our understanding from him. Now, so I thought, where is this in the Bible? What's going on here? Well, it's Revelation 16, 13, and 14 talks about the spirits that go out from the devil himself, going out to all the kings and to all the world to ready them for the battle of the great day of God Almighty. This is what's happening right now. I don't believe it's getting ready for that. It's not that part of Revelation isn't happening right now, but it's preparing. We can see already the propaganda that's going out and that's happening. Now, what's interesting about this from the Bible itself, you know what? Before I even go into Isaiah, you know what? Let me show you something real quick. This was fascinating to me. I'm going to skip. I'm all out of my line real quick. This is from someone I follow. This is her. This is from writings of Ellen White. This is really fascinating because this is what something she says. She says, furthermore, God has expressly forbidden the pretended communication with the departed spirits. That's called necromancy in the Old Testament. In the days of the Hebrews, there was a class of people who claimed, as the spiritualists today, to hold communion with the dead. But the familiar spirits, as these visitants from other worlds, were called. They are declared by the Bible to be spirits of devils. Okay. So that was back in when? That was in the days of the Hebrews. Okay, so this is how they confused the Hebrews, the pagans back then, is they declared these things to be spirits of the dead that were actually from far distant planets in the galaxies. Okay, so what happens in the future? Well, it says it right here. It says, the pretended visitants from the world of the spirits sometimes utter cautions and warnings which prove to be correct, and they try to tell the future. Then as confidence is gained, they present doctrines that directly undermine the scriptures. Really interesting. So this is kind of a premise, so from what we are going to be presenting on tonight, but something that I thought was really interesting is the 26 and 27 of Isaiah. And a friend of mine, I'm going to give him credit, Fred, if you're watching, thank you so much for bringing this. This is what it says at the end of Isaiah 26, and the first verse of Isaiah 27 where it really gets interesting, but I want to kind of understand the context behind this first. So let me show you the context of Isaiah first. Okay, so this is where it says, "Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut the doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpassed." Well, what just happened here? Why is God telling his people to hide themselves? Well, what happened was God is coming. That's what's going on here. And God's like, look, something, I'm coming, and I'm not happy with the people on earth. The verse before that says, "Thy dead men shall live together with my body, that dead body shall thy rise. Awake and sing, ye that dwell in the dust, for thy dew is as the dew of herbs. And the earth shall cast out the dead." This is the beginning of the coming of God. Okay, so that's good. This is the end of that. So what's the last verse in this chapter say? "For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain." Big things are happening. Well, what's the very next verse? You know that, and I know that these chapters and verses were not, the numbers were not put into the Bible. Man, put them into the Bible, and so we could find things better, right? But when they were written down, they weren't written that way. Like, I didn't think, going back to the New Testament, I don't think Paul was like, okay, I'm going to make this number 1. That's the first one. No, that's not how it worked. We did that later on. But let's go to 27 and check this out real quick. First verse says, "In that day," this is right after it talks about that. "In that day the Lord with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan." Leviathan? What, is he going to go down in the ocean? "Shall punish Leviathan and the pierced serpent." Okay, now we're knowing what's going on here. This is poetic language, talking about the serpent. What are they talking about? So he shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent. He shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. So what is this talking about? Well, look at Revelation. We know Revelation. I think this is 12. Yeah, Revelation 12:9 says, "And the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him." So I find it really interesting that you have the sword of the Lord shall punish Leviathan and that piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Why is it? Well, okay, could it be? I'm just saying. We know that the sea is the masses of people, right? That's the poetic language that means. The oceans, the waters really mean the groups of people. But I'm just curious, I'm just interesting to me that this is saying that Leviathan that lives in the sea. Could it be that this is also referring to where these things go after the 1700s? Why do I say 1700s? Boy, this is really getting deep, folks. And again, what we've set up here, this channel, is kind of the Strange Normal Research Group. This is not just, hey, this is what we're stating as fact. This is what we're trying to understand as happening throughout society. And so go with me on this. Figure this out with me. I don't need comments saying mean comments, but I do need scholars to figure this out and look through some of these clips I'm going to show you, because I think it's fascinating. One of those clips I want to show you is this one right here. Watch this.
At the beginning of 1700s, said the high priest, Satan and all his spirit counselors held a great general council with one purpose in mind. It was to prepare for the great industrial age that was soon to break upon the world. And Lucifer also foresaw another age that was to follow that, where tremendous scientific discoveries would be made by people, And we would enter a unique age that would change the way that everybody lives. It would also serve to usher in the end times and the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. And the priest said that Lucifer had been studying the Bible. And he found in Daniel 12:4, where we are told about the time of the end, when he shall run to and fro, knowledge shall be increased. He understood it to be that we're getting to that point. And he had, with all the spirit counselors, to change their modes of operation in order, to ensnare people. And they devised a way whereby people would disqualify themselves from being members of Christ's kingdom.
And he was just very candid about this.
Oh, yeah.
Telling you and the rest of the group, 60 or 70 people there, the plans that
close to 100 people.
Lucifer had revealed to him.
And by the time the council came to a close, they had 3 major policies that were going to be followed. First, they were to see to it that humans would be made to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist. Because up to that time, you could walk down a street of Paris and you would have signs that would say where you have a soothsayer or a fortune teller of some type, and if you want to put a curse on someone, you could go and see this other old lady over there, the old witch. That's the way it goes. But now it had to change. Lucifer says we have to make sure that people, humans, get to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist.
And what's going on? Well, why would he want people not to believe that he exists? Well, if he can get rid of the idea that he exists and he is spirit, then maybe he can get people to believe there is no spiritualism. There is no spiritual, I guess some people have said the spiritual realm. I don't like using that word. I don't find it in the Bible because the Bible says there's a veil that is that can be lifted. It doesn't say anything about a realm. There's no stool in the other room because it exists in a different partition of reality. I don't know. I think that's Star Trek. I think we've all been infected by Star Trek a little bit. But the realm that exists, I think in the Bible, biblically, is this idea of a different bodily form that God created out of seraphim and cherubim, which are angels. Some angels are good, some angels are bad. And these angels can change their form from physical to non-physical and break physics. At least that's what we're seeing. And that's what the Bible has shown as well. So I want to get back to the point where we stop thinking that angels are ghosts. I want to stop thinking about the idea that the angels are this ethereal thing you can put your hand through. I'm sure they can either manifest that or they can make themselves seem like that. But I think that the Bible reveals that angels are actually very physical if they want to be. They can eat food. That Bible says that. I should have pulled those verses up, but they have in many places in the Old Testament came down, ate with humans, and if they can eat, that means it's got to go somewhere. It's not like just falling out on the floor if they're a ghost. So these very physical beings have to have gone somewhere. Where did they go? Did they just floating around in the air? Jesus actually says that. He says that they have to find rest on something. And it's interesting too that we also see that they're congregations of these things, or at least they're coming from, or at least they're pretending to. This could all be a lie. Coming from the oceans. Let me play you some clips of that from the news real quick. See if I can bring that up here. Oh, but first I'm going to introduce you to Tim Gallaudet, I think, because I got to tell you that he's actually a legitimate, interesting guy. And he's going to start saying, hey, this is what we've actually seen. And the news interviews and stuff kind of base on this. So listen to this introduction of him first.
Admiral Tim Gallaudet, American oceanographer, retired Rear Admiral in the United States Navy, formerly worked on the U.S. Department of Commerce as the Acting Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere, also Acting Administrator of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA, on the Board of Directors for Force Blue, honored as a distinguished graduate of the University of California, San Diego. You're a research affiliate for Harvard's Galileo Project. You're on the board of the Soul Foundation and Americans for Safe Aerospace. And you later this year have a book coming out on leadership.
So is it possible that aliens have been living in our oceans this whole time? I never thought it would be possible I'd be reading that line on national television, but here I am. Joining us now is retired U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. His new book, Holding Fast in the Heavy Seas, is out next spring. Admiral, great to have you on. So you say you know the exact ocean canyon we should be searching for underwater UFOs. Where is it? Why are you so sure about it?
What we know is that the U.S. Navy has observed these phenomena going in and out of the ocean in Southern California repeated times. And so there are areas where that might be possible. We went and investigated one such area off Redondo Beach, an undersea canyon. But we have no evidence yet. But we do know from Navy video and sailor reports to me personally, whistleblowers, that these phenomena are being observed coming in and out of the ocean off Southern California and other areas of the world's ocean.
And to be clear, they're not just observed going in and out of the water, they're observed moving through the water at speeds that are unheard of and impossible according to everything we can do and we know scientifically.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say there's a whole mass of data, but I've had submarine officers and former acoustic intelligence specialists come to me and describe to me instances of objects they've been able to detect on sonar with anomalous behaviors, traveling faster than what our submarines can do, and even our weapons can do, such as torpedoes. And I've also had sailors come to me and describe to me, former sailors, pardon me, of the Navy, that have seen objects go in and out of the ocean. So, and by the way, others have reported this. For example, Lou Elizondo, has published a book about this called Imminent, describes several instances where overhead video using national intelligence assets have seen underwater objects moving at high rates of speed below the ocean surface.
So what is it about the California coast or the Pacific Ocean near California, do you think, why are we seeing more incidents there than we are in other places?
Well, I can answer that. I think, and I wish I could bring up Google Earth actually right now. Maybe I will. I think this is where we're going with this. Maybe I can do that real fast. Earth. Boom, it's coming. All right, so Google Earth, so what they're saying is one of the spots where they see these things a lot is around Los Angeles. Imagine that, right? Where Hollywood is primarily. And they say these things are existing in let me put it on the right screen here so I can show you guys. They are existing in the area of Los Angeles that is very interesting. So let's go to my California geography is not very good. So let me see if I can actually find Los Angeles here. Where is the city? Let's just do this. It's right there somewhere. There we go. All right, so we're going down to Los Angeles here. Let's look for Hollywood real quick. I think this is interesting. All right, so that's Hollywood. So this is Hollywood. And where do these things exist? Well, we're going to find out that these things are existing in this crevice right here. That's where they're seeing a lot of these things. You remember during the whole Tic Tac event? The Tic Tac event was where this white Tic Tac appeared when this naval Nimitz carrier was carrying these things, and they were practicing for war. And all of a sudden they said, hey, let's scramble and get 2 jets up there, looks and see what this thing is. Well, it came down from 80,000 feet, dropped and hit the water, hovering about 20 feet above it and boiling the water above it. They said something was down there. And there's been all kinds of stories about this that from the military saying they dropped something on the ocean. It was one of those missiles, and they want to see what it was. And this thing came up and just swallowed it up, and it wasn't a normal fish. something is happening, something very odd. And I'm sure it's just to cause a lot of commotion about something else exists on Earth here. And so that this whole plan that Morneau revealed can happen. That's the long and the short of it. There's nothing beyond that. This is just a lie that's happening. But it's really interesting to understand what is going on here. So this crevice could be. I'm just saying it could be. That's all I'm going to say about that. Could be something. Let's finish further and see what he says about why it exists off of California real quick here.
I don't know. And that's why we want to research this. And I've called for this to be a national research priority, because what can explain what they're doing, why they're doing it, their intent, their nature, where they occur. It's right now, I don't know. And the government's not releasing what it knows. And so that's what we've called for, and the folks that former national security personnel in this film, The Age of Disclosure, have all called for.
You know, people might laugh when they hear that aliens or alien spaceships could be hiding in our oceans, but the reality is we don't know a lot about our own oceans. We've only explored 27% of Earth's oceans. We know more about the moon and Mars, the surface of the moon and Mars, than we do about our own oceans. If someone or something wanted to hide, there's no more perfect place.
But you've done your homework, Elizabeth, because that's exactly right. We've only mapped the seabed of the ocean floor to about 25% of its total. We've not even explored 10% of the ocean volume. And yes, we know the surface of Mars and the moon to a better resolution than we do of the ocean floor. So if there were any extraterrestrial visitors and that did not want to be seen, this is where they'd hide. Now, I will not be claiming that that's what these source of these phenomena are, because, again, we don't have evidence yet.
You don't know.
We have reports of it, but like David Grush, for example, the UAP whistleblower who testified in front of Congress about this. But right now, I've not seen the evidence, so that's what we're searching for.
All right. Admiral Gallaudet, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
So I decided to go and find Tim Gallaudet's under oath presentation to Congress, because I wanted to know exactly what he said about this, because he just referenced it right there. And so this is that clip right here. Is it? Yes. Okay, here it is.
I've had witnesses on submarines come to me and say they've seen on sonar data.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
How would you characterize those, and how do they move?
The one instance that was revealed to me was in the 80s on a nuclear-powered submarine, a ballistic missile submarine, that the object exhibited the characteristics of a Russian torpedo in terms of its speed of movement and closing rate with the submarine, and then it slowed and followed the submarine slowly in its wake for a period of minutes, and then rapidly exited the scene. And nothing that we know of and technology-wise could replicate that.
To your knowledge, have any USOs ever outpaced our submarines?
Yes, ma'am.
At what magnitude?
I don't have the exact speed, but again, a witness came to me, a credible former submarine officer who observed it on sonar data. And this was in the 80s in the North Atlantic during a storm, and it outpaced his submarine by orders of magnitude.
Are you aware of any hotspots that currently exist off our shores in North America?
Not with sufficiently credible data, ma'am.
All right, so he says not with sufficiently credible data, but there's another guy that comes out and says we actually do have that information, and that is actually Tim Burchett, the congressman for Tennessee. Let me see if I can find that clip real quick. I'm all over my thing tonight, but I'm going with it. So let's go to Tim Burchett real quick. There it is right there.
You've been quite outspoken on the subject of USOs. Why is that? What prompted your interest?
Well, my conversations with pilots, and they seem to always be over water, and then a chance conversation I had with a former admiral, or I guess you're always an admiral if you're one, about these 5 or 6 deep water areas, and it just seemed to make sense. That's where you're seeing a lot of the observations of the UFOs. And then when I'm told something big as a football field is moving at 200 miles an hour underwater, when I know the best we have is around 30, it lends itself to a lot more questions than answers.
I understand you've spoken to people who are direct witnesses to claims that there are objects that have been detected underwater moving at hundreds of miles an hour. What more detail can you give me on these particular incidents?
Well, of course, it's done by sonar, and the fact that we have nothing in those capabilities. And if you shoot a bullet literally into a swimming pool, it's going to go just a few feet before it just stops. But you can shoot it through the air and it can go over a mile. And it just shows you the amount of friction and the amount of power that would have to have. But also it lends itself to why we keep seeing these things over water and then things that dive into the water.
One of the things you've spoken about is the speculation of underwater bases, not human bases, but bases by non-human entities. What can you tell me about what you've been told?
Well, that the concentration would be such that that's where they would be, and that we have not been able to explore any of these areas. If you just look at the numbers of sightings out over the ocean, it just seems to lend itself to that. And if you wanted to be undisturbed, where you wouldn't go in the middle of New York City or Knoxville, Tennessee, you'd go, although there's some strange things I've seen here, you would go where you would be least disturbed. And so the most unexplored area and the vastness of our great oceans is kind of hard to comprehend at some point.
Isn't that interesting? I went ahead and I looked up on a little Bible study I've done previously. I don't think I can show it to you here, but Genesis 18, 1 through 8 talks about 3 men identified as angels in Genesis 19. They ate bread, meat, milk, and butter prepared by Abraham. In verse 8, they said, and they did eat. Judges 13, 15 through 16, Manoah offered food to the angel of the Lord. And the angel engaged physically with the offering through, the direct sacrifice. He engaged with it, This is interesting. It says, angels walked, they traveled, they are physical. And you know what's missing from all these angels in the Bible? Wings. I think that's interesting too. Just saying. I know we've had those images that go around saying this is what an angel looks like, and it has a bunch of eyeballs on it, and it has a bunch of round things around it. Give me a break. I mean, I know that imagery is in some parts of the Bible, but that's not an angel. That's a story. So let's go into Genesis 19, 1 through 3. It says, angels walked in Sodom, entered Lot's house, and physically lodged there. Genesis 19, 15 through 16, the angels physically grabbed Lot and his wife, grabbed them and said, the daughters by the hand and pulled them out of the city. It said, the men laid hold on his hand. Let's check this one. Angels are mistaken for human men in Genesis 18, 19 and Joshua 5. Genesis 18:2, Genesis 19:5, the man of Sodom attempted to physically assault the angels because they wanted to have sex with them. Apparently, they were human enough and good-looking enough that they thought they also had the places that would satisfy them. I don't know if I can say it on here. Joshua 5:13. Joshua encounters a man with a drawn sword. Do you remember this? I love this first thing because he's like, "Are you for me? Are you for my army? Or are you for theirs?" I mean, he had no idea. There was no lit up a thing about this at the time. They thought this was either something coming to kill me or it is one of my men. Later revealed as the captain of the Lord's army. Well, I think there's something interesting about that one that's beyond the scope about this, but we're going to let that rest for a little while. Angels physically strike, blind, and or destroy. In Genesis 19, of course, angels strike the man of Sodom with blindness, a direct physical effect. 2 Kings 19:35, one angel kills 185,000 Assyrian soldiers overnight. And Acts 12:23, an angel strikes Herod, resulting in bodily death. Angels touch, release, and manipulate objects. Daniel 10, it says, an angel touched Daniel, strengthened him, and spoke to him audibly. Acts 12:7-10, an angel strikes Peter on the side, removes the chains, and opens the iron gate and leads them out. So there's a very clear aspect to this, that they have a mouth, they have eyes, they have ears. I mean, this is what is portrayed in the Bible as they can do the things that humans can do. This is not like some octopus type entity with a bunch of eyeballs on it that is just going around pretending to be human. Something very beautiful and very physical about this. If I had a little bit of time, I would have pulled that clip out of Roger Morneau's testimony, the 3-hour testimony he has online. And he says that they used to pull these demons out, and they used to, as a satanic worshiping cult, paint them on the wall so that they could worship them. And he said they didn't look weird. They looked beautiful. Beautiful beings. So it's a longer Bible study. But angels are seen, heard, and interact with normally in Hebrews 13:2, Luke 24:4, and the key passage would be Psalms 104:4. Who can make his angel spirits, his ministers, a flaming fire? This describes the nature of the origin, not the absence of physical manifestation. So in other words, they're not the same body. Paul talks about different bodies that are given to God's creation. And so I think it's interesting that just because we are bound, or we seem to be bound to this physical carbon body that we have, doesn't mean that that's the only thing God can do. There's something beyond our physics that exists on Earth here. So that's, I'm sure I probably lost like everybody doing this presentation here. But let's get back into the clips, because I think it's going to get a little more interesting as we go through these other clips here. All right, let's go back to Tim Burchett here as he talks more about this. Listen to this.
You've speculated about 5 or 6 bases of non-human entities. Where did you get that number from?
From some Navy officials that had, in fact, had broached that subject to me. I always remember the last thing this one fellow said, because you've been in my office, but you come in one door and you can go out the other if you choose, and nobody ever does. They just go out the entrance they came up. He chose to go out the other door so he could kind of get away from all the other. And the last thing he said was, he looked at me and said, "Tim, they're real." And I'll never forget that. And it led me to believe that he had more information.
And to be very clear about this, Tim, what you're saying is that these objects underwater, these bases underwater, they are non-human. You're clear about that?
That would be my belief, yes, sir. We don't have the capabilities of traveling there or doing anything else.
Clearly, something is operating in our oceans very close to the continental United States. And as you've speculated, it's perhaps using it for some kind of surveillance.
Surveillance.
100%. That's the only reason that would be doing it. When the numbers go up and then they drop off to almost nothing, and then you have these clusters that occur, and that would lead you obviously to believe that something is observing us.
There's so much here. Does this excite you as much as it excites me? I want to hear the chat, because this is amazing, the verbiage they're using. I'm picking up on this stuff going, wow, something non-human is looking at us and surveying us. They're watching us. What do we know as Christians? Well, there is a recording angel, and there's also a bunch of good and bad right now, and they are not just ethereal. Something else, they're very physical. And they have to stay out of the way, because that's what Roger Morneau just said in that last clip. They have to stay underground so that we believe that the spiritual realm doesn't exist. Well, where did they go? I don't know. You know what? I hesitate to make any factual beliefs on this, but I think it's rather interesting, don't you? All right, let's continue.
or we're observing something and we're observing them. But yeah, I guess it still just bothers me that our government won't come forward with it because, and the guys on the intelligence committee, I think, and gals, I think you have a few in there that just want to dissuade us from finding out what the real truth is.
Well, let's go to basics, Tim. Do you think we are being lied to by the government of the United States about the nature of these threats from the ocean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do. I think we're being lied to about a lot of things. I am the part of the government, and I don't trust it. I don't trust what's going on. You have to ask yourself, why are we being told to keep quiet? Why the secrecy? And it lends itself to Washington in itself. It's about power. It's about control. It's about secrecy. And therein lies some of the power and control over all of us. And I suspect all governments across the globe are the same way.
What do you think is President Trump's position on this? Do you think he's still amenable or open or receptive to the idea of being more open about UAPs as he promised during his campaign for the second administration?
I think he is. I still think he is. I've put a lot of faith and trust in mine and his relationship. I don't bother him about stuff all the time. I've asked for a 15-minute meeting with him, and I would like to discuss. There's 2 or 3 things I want to bring up to him that I think would go a long way, and one of those is this issue.
So one of the questions that came up in the chat was why did these interdimensional beings? I'm gonna say that just how it says it in the chat. Why do they need a base? Well, let's take for instance the assumption that these things are absolutely not alien. I believe they're not. There's no aliens out there. I mean, technically, I guess you could say an angel is an alien, like David Gates said on the podcast. But they're non-human intelligence, technically. But these angelic beings, every 100 years, on the 25 of the 100 years, like this would be the year that they did it, would have a meeting, and they would say, and this is what Morneau said: every 100 years they come around, they have a meeting. Where would they meet? Well, probably somewhere. Either up in the air. Do they have to be physical to have a meeting, or can they be hidden? Are they hidden from themselves? We don't know. We don't know that. We're not going to know them on this side of eternity. But something is interesting about this, and either they're pretending to be coming from one location that we can see, so that we say, oh, there's aliens on Earth. Or they really do have to have bases, and where our technology is finally just catching up with the idea that something's out there. I'm excited about this. I don't know. I think there's more than one reason to be excited about this. The fact that things are coming to a head right now, and we are going home soon, and the fact that we perhaps are wrapping this whole thing up and getting done with this whole test, this whole experiment called Earth, is really exciting. All right, so next clip I have for you is they decided to go out there to the canyon and just look around, and so they introduce Tim Gallaudet talking a little bit more about it. This is what he says. Do I have it? Do I have that clip? Come on now. Yeah, here it is.
News Nation is not a stranger to the Rear Admiral here. He was the admin of NOAA. He's has a doctorate in oceanography. And for these reasons, we'd like him to weigh in on what we're about to do here. So, Tim, thanks so much for joining us. We're here actually a couple miles offshore of Redondo Beach. And the information that you sent me about the Redondo Canyon, I'd like to ask you a couple questions about that.
Well, so I did some research here in a fairly recent paper on the sedimentary processes in this region. Was published in about 10 years ago here in Marine Geology. And this is a really interesting paper because these authors used all the modern instruments that are at our disposal. So we're talking what they call multi-beam bathymetry or multi-beam sonar, and also autonomous underwater vehicles that have side scan sonar on them. So they have some highly resolved data sets that are worth digging into. So first off, here's the big overview of the area we're looking into. You have Santa Monica Bay, And then it's got yet one canyon, Santa Monica Canyon, and then the Redondo Canyon. And then another view straight on is here. And so, yeah, there's a,
oh, wow.
Look at the drop off. If I were a USO and I wanted to hide somewhere, this is a great place to do it. And you see the steep structures here on the canyon walls. Now, granted, there is one thing. These are very active areas. So they're often these turbidity flows or landslides underwater. So a lot of activity to conceal any movement by any craft. So this would be the place to be.
And Admiral, doesn't this connect, the end of this Redondo Canyon connects to the wider Catalina Channel? Is that correct?
That's right. Let's go back a little bit. And this is really interesting. So first off, this red circle is the region I recommended you go dive on. And you can see it. It's just pretty much goes right to the offshore region, the Santa Monica Basin and Catalina Channel, where I showed you earlier. This is the area where a lot of UAPs have been seen by Navy ships and others. So yeah, it's basically it's kind of like a monorail route right into the region UAPs have been sighted. That's why I think it'd make for an ideal place of concealment, coming from offshore and going into this canyon.
Right into Hollywood. Well, not exactly, but right into LA there. I think that's fascinating. So, by the way, if this is interesting to you, we do this 24/7. You don't just come up with this whole show by itself in 24 hours. We actually have been doing this and talking about this quite a bit. So if you are interested in that and you want to be a part of that, you can get to our Discord private community by going to patreon.com/strangenormal. Patreon.com/strangenormal. And if you're having any trouble getting in there, please let me know. You can email me at bradley@strangenormal.org. I'll help you out. Don't message me anywhere else. It gets lost. Messenger, Twitter, even Patreon messages are, there's so many ways that people message and I find them 2 weeks later. You got to email me. If you email me, I can prioritize it and I can get to you. If I haven't gotten back to you, email me again. I get a lot of messages. I appreciate you guys. But I got another clip here I want to show you. A little testimony about this from another sailor. This was fascinating to me.
Thor Lysen is a boat captain who frequents the waters near Catalina Island.
These lights started appearing up in the sky.
Hard to find where the hell. Okay, where'd the third one go?
On the 13th of September 2021, Thor was on the water when he recorded this video showing 3 orange orbs. This is the same general area where the famous Tic Tac video was recorded by the US military, and above the deep and mysterious ocean caverns that Tim Gallaudet pointed us to.
As we drove over it for those few moments, it flashed lights up at us. Like, I'm talking like, it looked like baseball stadium lights just surrounding the boat, just beaming up all around us.
When you say drove over, was it already lit up and then you went over the top of it?
No,
or
it wasn't
it came up after you were over?
It wasn't until we got directly over whatever it was when these lights came and just beamed all around the boat. Middle of the night, probably around 12 o'clock.
So it lit everything up?
Yeah.
Could you estimate kind of what the radius, how big it was around the boat?
I would say quite possibly half the size of a field.
Of a football field?
50 yards?
Yeah, about 50 yards.
Wow.
25 in all directions. And sat there the rest of the night with a gun in my hand waiting for something to come creeping out of the water. I was that scared.
Wow.
Like, I don't get scared easy, but that was a moment.
Now, this is a ridiculous question, but what would you tell people who said, oh, well, it's probably phosphorus and algae and the blooms we get, you know, that sparkle?
Yeah, well, the phosphorescence, I've seen it all my life since I live right here. I mean, you catch like a little mackerel that's like a foot long and it looks like it's 10 feet when you're catching it at night with the phosphorescence. And it glows a green color. Like I said, baseball stadium lights that were bright white beaming up from the bottom or wherever, however deep it was down there.
I even got some information from an air traffic controller who said they had jets scrambled somewhere between here and the channel because I believe a pilot had witnessed something under the water. They said it was like the size of a city. all right, a light the size of a city. And so they went to check it out. So just know, well, you already know, you're not the first or the last to witness that type of phenomena. What it is, I don't know, but we're going to look into it further.
Isn't that interesting? So I think it's something that's fascinating to look into. Not salvational, what it is or what it's not, but I think the fact that all this is coming out now, and it's kind of weird, kind of strange. I'm not supporting anything biblically on it. Understand that, but I think it is something worth looking into and something worth examining. Always, though, what should we use to decide what is truth? Nothing on TV, nothing that the spiritual realm has given us, but primarily what the Bible says, because the spiritual realm could be lying spirits, right? So when deciding what truth is, go with that first. This is all just fascination. I want to make everyone very clear on this, that we aren't trying to establish a new cult or kind of idea or anything like that. If there is something that I believe, it's what's in this booklet. And a lot of people have gotten this booklet this last week because I sent it out. If you have, please make a donation on the website, because it takes money to reprint these things. And this is the third time I've sent out the booklets, and I barely got anything back. So I appreciate it, but I know a lot of you have given a lot in the first couple times, but we got to reprint these, and it costs tens of thousands of dollars to do that sometimes, and so it appreciate it if you do. But if there's anything that I believe, it's all based in this book right here. Go through it. It shows from the Bible, from Spirit of Prophecy, what are the last day spiritualism? What will it do? What are the 6 characteristics of it? And what are the current events that kind of show that? And right here in the crease, in the very center where the staples are, if you go back one page and start reading at the bottom, you can start to see some incredible quotes that talk about this stuff. And if you want to get that book, go to strangenormal.org, and you can find it right there on the front page. Click the link below the image, and you can fill out a Google form or Google request form. It's free, and I send them to you personally. I box them up, and I put the sticker on them myself. So if that's something that you would want from me, send them out to send to you, I will do that. In that box, we'll have a little flyer showing how you can donate if you want to contribute. If you thought these are a bunch of baloney, I don't care. That's great. If you thought they were worth something, please help us continue to spread this message. It's very interesting what's happening here, and I think this is prophecy fulfilling right out of Revelation 16. So, it's going to be a short show tonight because we had quite a bit of videos come out today or this last week, and I've been trying to produce a lot more. So if you appreciate those, go watch those, because they are not just on water like we had tonight, but they are on all current events that are happening right now and that you might have missed. All through this last week, we got tons of information coming out. And since we are going to GYC this year, meet us there. Join us at our booth, and also tell your friends. Say, hey, go get a picture with Bradley at his booth, or go get I'm gonna have T-shirts. I'm gonna have stickers. I'm gonna have what else is gonna be there? These booklets, all kinds of stuff to give away. And so you're gonna want to get a couple things if you're there, and come say hi. And get ready for a picture, because I'm going to take your picture and put it online. So, all right. I think that's it for tonight. Let's continue to go and spread the truth. So let's pray. Father God, thank you for this night. Thank you for this time that we've spent together to go over these interesting things that are happening in our life. Continue to guide us and give us wisdom on how to understand these strange events from the Bible. We look forward to the day where we don't have to wonder. We can look back on history and understand exactly what was happening. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, that's it. Folks, I think I will close with that. Make sure you comment Comment on the program if this was interesting, because comments engaging with the website actually makes this go a lot further. Good night. My name is Bradley. This has been Pure Strangeness and Absolute Normalcy. Strange normal. See you later.
You're watching Strange Normal, where the truth is the truth.